working now working now with over 1,000 odd enterprises, 3 lakh odd SMEs, and across the entire product suite, which includes compliance products, accounts payables, accounts receivables products, and supply chain financing products. We've been fortunate to work with some of India's leading companies across sectors, whether it's some of the leading companies in pharma, consumer, auto, core manufacturing, and overall we're present across 20 odd sectors across mid-market as well as large corporates. So that's a quick brief on CashFlo. Excited to be part of this Elevate series. I think we've had some really enriching conversations with finance leaders and technology leaders. I think it's my personal way of also getting to learn a little bit about how finance leaders operate. So I have a selfish interest, being part of these conversations. Kaustav, welcome. Would love to hear maybe a little bit about your journey, and then we can get started.
Yeah, thanks, Ankur. First of all, a big thanks to the CashFlo team for hosting me in the webinar. And as Akshay said in the beginning, I have just completed the innings with Sandvik and waiting for the next inning to start in a couple of days' time. So I'm basically a chartered accountant and a postgraduate in commerce, and I worked across various fields in finance and finally landed up with the CFO's role in Sandvik. So in Sandvik, I was roughly around 10 years and worked in different parts of their functions and also different locations. So few times I've spent with the production unit in Hyderabad, then I moved to Sweden. So I was working with the global management team, and then I came back to India in 2019 as a CFO for the legal entity. So being in Sandvik, I think quite a few interesting things I'm happy to be part with. I think one of the interesting thing is that implementing so many ERPs. So during the last years, I think I have implemented more than 4 ERPs in Sandvik, and it's basically spread across the business and across different fields of the organization. Not only the ERPs, I think I've also been part of quite a few other systems as well, like expense reimbursement, payroll, and then some other business tool as well. So as a whole, it's quite an interesting journey, and I will say in Sandvik right now we are in a kind of a position where we are transforming ourselves from the legacy to the cutting edge tools. I mean, I will say it's not only the ERP. We are in the process of implementing so many things and also interfacing a lot of market intelligence with our ERPs as well as the other tools also. And I will say we are really on a kind of a launching pad to, go ahead with the new technologies and then implement the best of the tools available in the market. So yeah, this kind of discussion is always interesting to me, and I think this field, that use of technology in the finance, is quite challenging, and it's kind of evolving every day. And I think we are really having a very interesting and I will say that interesting and challenging time ahead. So that's it about me. So what do you, Ankur?
No, thank you, Kaustav, and thanks for that introduction as well. I think, like you rightly pointed out, one of the couple of areas that I'd love to learn a little more today from you is, the unique thing about, your experience at Sandvik, has been this entire sort of technology journey, given that there are multiple group entities, and you mentioned multiple ERPs. So would love to touch upon, what has been the thinking and the approach there, and what have been some of the challenges, that you encountered along the way, any learnings that you can share with a larger group. And the second topic that I'd love to touch upon with you is, in today's context, what we've seen is there's a lot of rapid evolution when it comes to compliance, especially the government sort of stepping in and really fast forwarding the entire journey towards compliance for businesses. In fact, in many areas, the government is ahead of the private industry in our experience.
Right.
How should a corporate think about compliance, and how can technology play a role there? So I think these are two areas would love to deep dive a bit more on in today's conversation. Perhaps you can start with the ERP topic and learn a little bit about Sandvik's context and what's been the ERP strategy and how do you think about technology more broadly?
Yeah, before going into that ERP and the technology part of it, I would like to highlight one more point is that the role of finance is changing. I mean, the way the finance used to work 20, 30 years back and the way the finance people are working today is quite different, and then their roles and responsibility has also transformed over the last 20, 30 years. So nowadays finance managers are involved into more into strategic leadership, and then the entire organization depends on finance for a lot of data analytics. So be it financial data, be it market intelligence, be it other data as well. Finance is also kind of playing a major role in the risk management. So not only the risk management which related to the fund and the market volatility and all those, it also the risks of I will say the business risks, enterprise risks as well. The finance leader plays a very important role out there. Then finance people are also today are the or I will say the bridge between the investor and the company's management. I mean, the investor also been having a lot of trust on the finance manager, and then also they also kind of listen from the finance heads or finance manager that what's happening within the organization, and that matters a lot. And then finally, the finance leaders have also been responsible for M&A and strategic management as well. I mean, when it comes to M&A, then the finance leaders get involved very early from the due diligence activities, and then their role kind of uh, uh, I mean, does not end with the acquisition part of it. So their role also get extended during the implementation process as well. So the finance leader get involved into all kind of strategic things, starting from the conceptualizing the idea till the implementation of it. So in a way, the role of the finance leader are kind of expanding, and they are also taking more and more risks. And I will say that 20, 30 years back, when I started my career, I mean, the finance leader been looked like, okay, this is the number guy. I will say the finance leaders are no longer a number guy. They are part of the they are part of the strategic management, and they are kind of directing the businesses also the way they need to go.
Hmm.
So when it comes to the ERP part of it, I mean, again, the ERP is something, it's very strategic thing for every company, especially if we really look into the MNCs that where they have operation in spread across different countries, different regions. The ERP is very crucial part, and then it's part of the I will say that the strategic decision of the company itself. And then definitely finance play kind of a very important role out there, that what ERP to be taken and how it should be implemented. And I mean, I will say the entire part of it. So at the end, the finance is the receiver of the output of the ERP, I will say. So maybe the operations, production, sales, everybody are using the ERP, but final output of the ERPs, so the financial number, that's basically impacting the finance as well. So it's a strategic decision, definitely. So if I go back 10 years in Sandvik, so Sandvik is very fragmented ERP structure across the globe. So Sandvik has grown up to that current size with lots of merger and acquisitions. And then since there are lots of merger and acquisitions, so then different companies having their own set of ERPs and everything. And then Sandvik also have some ERPs developed in-house. So 1980s, there was a kind of a word that Sandvik kind of the most innovative company in terms of the ERP. So 1980s, 70s, that time people cannot think about ERP. So Sandvik used to use ERP that time. So there are lots of ERPs then which kind of developed in-houses. Then there are a lot of acquisitions where those ERPs also become part of the Sandvik. And then somewhere 10, 15 years back, Sandvik started thinking onto that. Okay, they need one ERP platform. So they cannot work like so many fragmented ERP platform and everything because the data are not consistent from different ERPs and they are not directly compatible. So they need something which can be used across the globe for their entire operation. So that is the primary thought process on the ERP part of it. Then comes the thinking that they need an ERP which can be which can be used for both production as well as the sales organizations. So there are lots of ERPs in the market which are very specific for the sales or trading organization part of it. There are ERPs which are very specific for the financial operation part of it. Similar way, there are very few specific ERPs which are very much, I will say, user friendly in the production environment. So Sandvik used to need to take a call, so they need an ERP which actually satisfy all the requirements of all the requirements of all the operations. So it's suitable for production, it is suitable for sales organization as well as other support staff as well. So and then the final thing it's into mind is the compliance. Now different countries are having different compliance structure, and then we need an ERP which will satisfy all or which will be suitable for all the compliance structure. If you look into the world compliance structure, then probably Brazil, Australia, India are the few countries where we really have a very tough, or I will say the complicated compliance structure. So we need an ERP which actually satisfy or actually meet the requirements of the compliances for all such countries. So these are the three primary requirements. So we need one ERP which can be used across the globe. We need one ERP which can be used across all the functions, production, sales, and other support functions. And then finally, we need one ERP which will kind of satisfy the requirements of compliances for all the countries. So based on these three parameters, Sandvik decided to go for an analysis, and then they picked up a couple of ERP, and then they finally do a kind of a study that which ERP will be the most suitable for it. And finally, they decided to go ahead with SAP S/4HANA Cloud one. And then again, when it comes to the implementing strategy part of it, that is also very important. You cannot just get an ERP and you cannot say that your responsibility ends here. A ERP badly implemented actually will not satisfy anything, or it will not kind of work for your business as well. So on the implementation strategy part, so it's been divided into three parts. One is for production, one is for sales organization, and another is for the support function. So there are three specific team kind of identified, and then there is a kind of a one team at the top who are supposed to take a lot of decisions. So there are some key decisions like the enterprise structure, or I will say that some key configuration where that team at the top should take a call of it. So this is how the things been started with, and I think we all know India is the land of technology, especially the IT part of it. And this time we did able to convince the Sandvik management that you should start with India, because this is the land of technology and all the SAP S/4HANA. If you really look into the expert people on SAP, then India is the right place where you will get a lot of expert people on SAP. And I think Sandvik management finally understood that, and then they decided to start with India. So India is the first country where all of its production units moved to SAP S/4HANA, and the sales and the other organizations are in line to go live. And I think it was really very interesting to work in the implementation process. So we are having some implementation partner who fortunately are also from India. So and then I think we have really kind of placed that the knowledge and support we receive from our implementation partner. And and I believe we actually done with the India implementation. So now it is the time for implementation in the Swedish country, Swedish units. And I think it's much more easier to implement it now in Sweden because all the complicated things been kind of implemented in India. So they just need to kind of cut off something and then implement the other part of it in Sweden. So it's going well, and I think in next 5 to 10 years time, we'll be able to uh, convert all our operating entities across the globe into SAP HANA, and it will be great success, I will say.
That's very interesting, Kaustav. And just a related point to that, uh, a lot of companies in India are also trying to understand whether they should move to S4 HANA, or especially the cloud version versus the on-prem version. Was there a lot of debate at the time internally on whether you should move to the cloud or on-prem version, and how did you all what was the thinking there?
So I think every company has to kind of analyze their requirement. I mean, based on their requirement, the decision to be taken. It cannot be kind of an universal choice that everybody needs to go into cloud part of it. I think the things which every company needs to kind of take into consideration is that how spread their business is. Whether I will say the field engineer also need to access the SAP at any point of time or not. I think these are the things uh, which uh, which should be considered, and based on those the decision to be taken. And also I will say that it's not necessary that everybody needs to move ahead with SAP only. So there are lots of other ERPs as well, lots of other effective ERPs as well. So in fact, I am also being part of some of the startup companies in India, in their board as well. And there we implemented, I will say, the cloud-based ERPs as well. I mean, today's scenario in India, you can see a lot of cloud-based ERPs are available at a very cheap rate, and they also meet all the security standards and everything. I mean, you might have heard the name of Khata Book, Real Book, then Align Book. Lots of such ERPs are also there. Even for some of the startup, I suggested to go ahead with those ERPs as well. So it's mainly the need of the business which should be kind of assessed, and based on that, that call should be taken. The complexity of the business, the spread of the business should be the key consideration of the ERP rollout, definitely.
So one of the things that you mentioned in favor of cloud is, depending on how many people need access to the ERP, especially if, people on the field need access, then a cloud version makes a lot more sense. Any
Definitely.
other considerations when or why a cloud version can be more beneficial versus on-prem? I mean, the cost structures are typically one, reason, but I mean, more from beyond commercials, right? Because historically, a lot of enterprises have had reservations on moving data to a cloud. Was that an active debate internally? And if so, how do you reason internally to say that cloud is still a better option?
Yes, I think there is also one point into consideration. So there is a amendment in the Companies Act couple of years back, where companies have categorically mentioned that every company who are uh, keeping their ERPs on cloud, they need to take a backup, and then the backup should be available in India, and backup will be accessible at 24/7. Uh, so this is also a consideration. I mean, many times it happens that backing up from the cloud and storing into the local server is really an expensive and time-consuming thing. So, but at the same time, you also need to kind of comply with the Indian Companies Act. This is also a consideration that whether you should really go with cloud or on-prem, and then you need to look at the servers in India or not. So that again comes into it. But overall, I will say if you really go ahead with the cloud, then your cost of maintenance goes down because you really need not to keep servers every locations. And so you can keep one centralized server location where all the data can be stored, and then you can do a kind of a backup whenever required. And yeah, I think that is one of the consideration. I mean, for Sandvik, when we decided to go ahead with the cloud, it is the cost part of it, which we also came into consideration, apart from the accessibility part of it. Because if you are in cloud, then it can be accessed if you just have a internet access. Now, when it comes to the security part of it, I will say that uh, that again, every company having its own IT security policy, own data privacy policy. I mean, so uh, within that framework, then this access for the cloud server need to be defined onto it. Say for Sandvik, I mean, if I it's a kind of a single sign-on, so I need not to sign on separately. If I kind of try to log into the SAP part of it. But again, I mean, if I really like to log in outside of Sandvik network, then there are two-step authentication process I need to do. And I mean, nobody have really having a kind of an access of which of those steps. So if the company having really having a robust security process of their other applications, and then they can fit the SAP application into it. I think nothing better than that.
Got it. And Kaustav, talk to us a little bit about technology beyond ERPs. And you've, like you mentioned, you've implemented one of the more advanced ERPs that are out there in the market today. Do you feel that once you have moved to an advanced ERP of this nature, does it take care of all automation needs of the finance function, or is there a need to look at tools and softwares that go beyond ERP as well?
Yes, I mean, ERP definitely not kind of meet everything in it. So ERP is more to kind of FNA analysis and more onto the reporting part of it. And then, of course, I mean, comply with the internal controls and everything. But you also need something more than that as well. And I think one thing we also keep in mind that government is also very moving very fast onto their I mean, I will say the systems and all those things. So whatever they are implementing, they are moving very fast. And I will say that they are ahead of the corporate world. So, and not only that, what government are doing right now, it is basically interlinking the different databases. So the custom databases now been linked with the GST databases, and then again the GST databases are linked with income tax databases. So each one, I will say, the fetch data from the other. So GST authorities fetch data from income tax as well as the customs. Similar way, in income tax also fetches data from GST. So a lot of interlinking out are also out there. Now, in the corporate world, we also need to kind of match up with the government expectation, and then, I mean, to get matched up with the government expectation, definitely ERP alone cannot support that. You need something more onto it. So during the last 5 years, we have not only worked on ERP, we have also worked with implementing a lot of automation tool as well, a lot of bots as well we have done. Uh, it's interesting to say that the bot can do anything what we are doing manually. Suppose we are downloading some reports from our ERP, and then I think this is quite common for the finance guys, that downloading reports in Excel and then doing something, pulling 3, 4 reports and then kind of matching it, compiling it and preparing something. I think all this thing can be done by a bot. So if you can put the logic onto the bot on a regular frequency, bot can kind of pull data from different, from your ERP, from different databases, and then I think it can compile and anything. I mean, whatever you require, it can be done through bot as well. And then so we implemented couple of bots. I think one of the bot we implemented where it was programmed for 24 hours for doing such kind of reporting. So each thing, I mean, I will say takes, say, for example, 30, 45 minutes, I mean, each program. So in a day of 24 hours, the bot kind of perform all the function one after another. And anything, any standard activity which humans are doing on the finance field can be done by the bots. So we did a lot of such things. We did a lot of optical character reading as well, starting from accepting invoice and then using optical character reading to read the invoice and then feeding the data to ERP. We also implemented optical character reading for expense reimbursement. I mean, say for example, you are eligible for a fuel reimbursement. You did the fueling at petrol pump. You can just scan that fuel bill from your mobile. You are done. Your
Yeah.
claim is submitted. Uh, we implemented a lot of tool in payroll. Uh, Recently, we implemented geofencing for our remote locations for time booking and time attendance part of it. And then also we implemented kind of an integrated payroll things. And then the other part which we are kind of right now working is that uh, interfacing the market intelligence into our systems. So be it in ERP, be it in our different tool. I mean, I can give a quick example. Say, for example, in our travel booking system, you want to make a flight book for Pune to Delhi or Mumbai to Delhi. So as soon as you give the request to that travel thing, so uh, it will give you that how much carbon you are going to put into the environment. What are the options, better option you have in Delhi for hotel and everything? What will be the total cost of the entire travel and everything? So system will populate those kind of things. So I just give a simple example of it. So similar way, we are trying to kind of um, pull lot of market intelligence or lot of data which are available in different public domain. So those we are working on to kind of incorporate in our system. So that's the next stage we are working for.
And these tools that you've implemented for different, parts of your finance function, do they all need to integrate with the underlying ERP, or do they operate standalone over and above the ERP?
It can work standalone, but it can also be integrated. So some of the tools we have integrated, some of the tools still work as a standalone tool. But even if it is working as a standalone, but I mean, there is a data interface from that tool to the ERP or from ERP to that tool. So I will say some of the cases uh, these tools kind of offload the data in a predefined format, and then the ERP picks that template from a shared location and do the accounting entries in the system.
Hmm. Got it. Interesting. Uh, in your view, what, you know, like a lot of these ERPs also have, additional sort of software extensions of their own, right? So, SAP, for instance, would have like a SAP Concur for expense and, so on and so forth. I'm sure they'll have their own, tools for OCR as well. So, uh, do you sort of, how do you think about, whether to go with the ERP extensions versus, tools available in the market, which are specialized in their respective domains. Any sort of
Yeah,
guiding principle there that the audience can sort of learn about?
yeah. One point I will highlight here. I mean, the decision we taken to in favor of SAP is that SAP is really a standard ERP. And then if you really look into the market, any tool, be it relates to expense process, be it relates to any other finance processes, it will be having a standard connected to SAP. So that's really an advantage. I mean, I think anybody is developing a tool in the market, they will always work with a kind of a standard connection with SAP. So recently we uh, moved ahead with one of the payroll tool, which is not a SAP tool at all. But we found that it is having a kind of a standard connector. And I think every tool in the market having a standard connection with SAP. So that's the advantage of moving ahead with SAP. We also have, I mean, when we are not having SAP, we are also having a lot of such tools where we develop some internal processes like it will offload the data in a kind of a standard template, and then uh, the ERP, whatever I'm using, I mean, pick up the data from there. So today's scenario, I don't think that this interfacing and data connection is really a challenge.
Hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of standard converter also available in the market, which convert the data, which is suitable for some standard ERPs as well. Uh, but yes, I mean, if you are really doing a kind of a two-stage data interface, downloading and uploading, then of course you do have a you need some time, and then there is a chance of error as well. But whereas if you have a kind of a direct connection or direct interface, then definitely it's much better. But I think in today's scenario, we look more onto the effectiveness of the tool, which one is more effective, whether the SAP tool is effective or whether something else available in the market are more effective. I think we should go for that. And then uh, that connecting part or interfacing part, I think it's typically an IT job. And then we do have lots of solutions out there.
Yeah. I'm guessing cost also tends to play a role, right? SAP versus, or like ERP tools in general versus off-the-shelf solutions in the market.
Yes, of course. I mean, if you have SAP, then if you go with the SAP extension, it will be much costlier again. I mean, compared to a kind of a locally developed tool. So you need to kind of look into that. But in this regard, one thing I really need to comment is that whenever we are taking a call, which tool I should use, maybe the SAP tool comes at a cost or some other tool comes at a cost. We really need to see how the tool's framework is, how the internal control framework of the tool is working. Is it really having a robust internal control framework, or I will say the control environment within that tool? I
Hmm.
think a tool with a robust control environment, which is always better, I mean, than a kind of a tool which is cheap, but not having a kind of a robust control environment. So you always need to look for those tools which gives me a better control environment. So probably you will end up paying more for this tool, but you will be saving a lot in terms of expenses or in terms of wrong processing of data, or I will say that if you really have a wrong processing of data, you may end up into a penalty or interest with the tax authorities as well. So having a good control environment is one of the key consideration to uh, kind of selecting any tool, whether it's an SAP or outside SAP.
Yeah, makes sense. Fantastic. And I know you briefly talked about the compliance aspect. Just wanted to maybe double click a little bit on that before we open it up to questions for the audience. Um, Given a lot of the government, requirements around compliance, and we hear companies now talking all the time about getting all sorts of notices from the government, from, various uh, compliance related issues. As a CFO and as a finance leader, how do you stay on top of, these challenges? And what would you recommend, for finance leaders? How should they preemptively and proactively solve for future compliance related challenges?
I think one of the very important thing out here to look in is that be it ERP, be it any tool. So whenever you are doing the configuration, so you really need to look whether the configuration is flexible or not. Before Because any kind of hard coding is really difficult for any kind of future changes. And in our country, the especially the tax laws are still emerging. It's not kind of stabilized yet. During the last 5 years, we have seen so many new things being introduced. We have seen the e-invoicing, we have seen the 194R TDS section. So, lot many things been introduced during the last 5 years. So, one of the key things, I look into it whether the configuration is flexible enough to accommodate any kind of changes, any kind of changes which we can predict for the future as well. Say, for example, it's a small company, uh, but if they are kind of implementing ERP or any kind of tool, they should always need to look whether uh, the tool or the ERP is capable for handling the e-invoice in future or not. So maybe today it is not applicable for them, but tomorrow it would be applicable. So need to look into the flexibility part of it. And really, we whenever we kind of configure any tool or ERP, we really very uh, kind of attentive to the configuration, especially the tax configuration part of it. And we try to keep those tax configuration activities with us, with the business people itself, instead of keeping it with the technical people. So some cases it's happened that it's been too technical, which the business user really cannot handle it. So we decided to go ahead and having a technical person within the finance team itself to handle those kind of changes in the system, rather than kind of giving it to a purely a technical team to handle it. So we found it very difficult for them to understand, uh, and then also kind of do the changes in the ERP as per the requirement. It's really a tough job for them. Whereas it's been much easier for a person who is within the finance and then having those technical, having handling those kind of technical changes in the system itself. So these
Yeah.
are the 2 points. I always looked into to address any kind of future changes done by the government.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I think one of the things that you talked about, which is I feel very critical for finance professionals going forward, is also this ability of, marrying the domain knowledge of, different finance functions to, ability to leverage technology, right? So a
Right.
finance professional who's actually adept at the domain knowledge, but also comes with, knowledge and understanding and ability to leverage tools, I think, has a bright future in, the future of the finance functions. And they need not necessarily be coders themselves, but I think just the ability,
Yes.
uh, you know,
The domain knowledge should be there within the finance itself. Otherwise, if it has been handled by the technical team, sometimes it's been too difficult for them to understand.
yeah, domain knowledge is not there in the technology team. So I think the combination is a real powerful one. On that note, Kaustav, thanks for sharing your thoughts. I think this has been super insightful. Learning in depth around the future of technology in finance functions, and also you touched upon the compliance piece. So thank you again for that. Happy to open this up to the audience for any questions you might have for Kaustav or answer.
Yeah, Ankur. Actually, we do have a couple of questions lined up. So, I think the first question is from Bipasha.
Yes.
This is for Kaustav. What have been some of the use cases you have experienced for applying predictive and prescriptive analytics in business scenario simulations?
Yeah,
Um,
I think I can take that. So when it
yeah.
comes to the predictive analytics, yes, we have implemented something. So basically, incorporating the market trend with our numbers. So that's something we have incorporated. Though it's really a very basic as of now, but we are kind of working to improve it and then uh, uh, then make it more robust. So say for example, Sandvik works with the mining industries as well as the construction industries. Now, uh, take the example of coal mining. Now, the how the coal production would be in the next 10 years, that's something we need to incorporate in our forecast. Because without that knowledge, we'll really not be able to figure out that how many coal mining related equipments we can sell. So this is how, I mean, we are incorporating that. So we have linked up I mean, linked our forecast tool with some of the public domains as well. We pull the data from there and then we give it to the tool for build up the model for us. So this is as of now we are doing, but we are working to make it more robust as well. I think I can see there is a next
Yeah,
question.
I think there's a follow-up question from Bipasha itself. In case you have used cash flow forecasting tools, how has your experience been? Have they been accurate?
I will say that yes, we have used it partially, and we have still not kind of implemented as a whole on the cash flow part of it. Basically, cash flow is something which is not really a focus for us. Being an MNC, we uh, actually don't have any kind of a market borrowing in India as well. But yes, we have looked into it, and I will say that it's giving us a kind of an accurate part of it. But the problem in the cash flow forecasting, what we have kind of seen is that putting the accurate data into the model itself. I mean, especially the investment part of it, which is really hard to predict for us because construction market in India is really a very up and down market, and also the mining part of as well, because in mining most of the sectors are still dominated by the government players. There are hardly few sectors which are actually open for the public players. And Sandvik also do not uh, goes in all types of mining equipment. So they are very specific thing. So we have used the cash flow one for our, I will say, to do some kind of test and something. And we have seen more or less the accurate results are coming. But the challenges we face with the accurate data input.
Got it. I think Ankit has a question. Why should ERP users need additional tools such as Cashflow? Is there a loophole, or is there something missing in an ERP system? So maybe, I don't know, Kaustav can take this a little bit, and then maybe Ankur can share his thoughts as well.
I think I will not say it's a loophole in ERP. I mean, if you really see today's the Office 360 application, 365 application, it's also you can do everything in that. Okay, I mean, it is also having a lot of robotics as well. Like you can save your mail, you can kind of, uh, I mean, you can actually handle the entire expense reimbursement through Office 360. So it's not a loophole part of it. I will say, as I mentioned earlier, that we need a better control environment as well. So I need to restrict that, okay, this person cannot claim more than this, or this person, if he has claimed uh, this once, he will not be allowed to claim it again in the next 3 years. So such kind of control environment, then many times we see that not available with the existing ERP or I will say the Office 365 application and all those. So those cases we need to kind of move on to some more applications. So maybe Ankur, you can add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, in our experience with, our the clients we serve, all of them are using top of the grade ERPs in their companies. I think the point is that there are a lot of applications and use cases which are over and above the job of an ERP. To give you an example, when you think about compliance, or let's say GST input tax reconciliation. Now, that's a very specific application which an ERP is not designed for. If you want to know whether your vendors are compliant or not, whether, before making a GST payment, you want to check, whether the vendor has, filed his GST. A, that's an India specific scenario, and B, it's not the core job of an ERP to do that. Similarly, when you think about, invoice capture, right? When a vendor sends an invoice in the PDF form, being able to automatically read that information, apply intelligence on top of it, so on and so forth. Now, that's not the core job of an ERP solution. Kaustav talked about expense management, right? Employees submitting bills, again, that entire process needs to be digitized. These are all applications that are not, that an ERP is not designed for. So I agree with Kaustav. I wouldn't say it's a loophole or a gap in an ERP. It is just that, it's a job that is not meant for an ERP. Now, as a finance team, what they have to ensure is that all the use cases that the company has, ideally they would want to automate those processes so that there is no time wasted in manual efforts. And then that's where specialized software comes in. In our experience, for instance, even in the US, which is a very evolved market from an ERP standpoint, there are specialized tools for invoice capture. There are specialized tools for expense management. There are specialized tools for vendor financing. So in a evolved economy like the US or Europe, where ERPs have not been able to solve for these specialized use cases, India is a different beast altogether. And for ERPs to solve India specific use cases, it becomes even more challenging. So I think the need is, for a finance leader, it's important to look at all the core processes that exist, and how much of that is happening manually, and what are the available tools in the market that can automate those manual processes. And then, like Costa said, some of those tools need to be integrated with the ERP, some can work standalone, and both are fine, right? So that's how we've seen finance leaders look at solutions beyond ERP.
Thanks a lot, both of you. The next one is more specifically for Kaustav. As an OEM, how does Sandvik monitor vendors' financial and compliance health? Does Sandvik support in vendor financing or early payments to the suppliers in some way?
Okay, so when it comes to analyzing the financial health of any vendor, then we really do not have the access of lots of data, or I will say their financial books and everything. Generally, what we do the primarily compliance check, whether the vendor is submitting returns on time, whether the vendor is kind of compliant on the other stuff of it or not. So those we check. We do have a dedicated team to do that. But beyond that, or I will say that when we onboard the vendor for the first time, then our team does it. When it comes for a recurring check of it, then I mean we cannot do it. It's really a very voluminous thing altogether. So we give it to some organization with whom we do have a kind of a tie-up, and then ask them to verify the vendor for those identified parameters on a kind of a yearly basis. And based on that input, we work. When it comes to the vendor financing, no, we do not have any process to do a vendor financing from Sandvik itself till date. But we are kind of working to set up a NBFC arm within Sandvik itself, probably through which we can do some kind of a vendor financing support to our vendor, but still not been decided. So as of now, we do have some tie-ups with banks or some financial institution where vendor can go and kind of discount their bills, and uh, uh, and then of course they need to pay some kind of interest. And since Sandvik is having a tie-up with those banks and NBFCs, so that's why the vendor gets a better rate actually.
Got it. Okay. The next question is, will Excel still be extensively used as spreadsheet calculation tool in finance in the future?
I think Excel is something very universally used, and then it's something you can tailor-made anything, whatever you require to. Uh, I will say the Excel still be used. Excel will not be discarded. But I think in today's scenario, we do have a lot of data maintained in Excel, right? So that the data maintaining or data capturing part definitely will be discontinued in Excel. Excel will be still used as an analytical tool, but data maintenance, data, uh, I will say that, yeah, data maintenance and then other part of it, I think it will go away. Other tools and the ERP will take it. But yes, Excel will be used as an analytics tool, I think, for some time more, I believe.
Amazing. We have one question from Mahima. Which are the main resources that both of you use to understand technology trends in finance?
So it's really an interesting question. So typically, if you look into the current Indian organization structure, where IT also reports to finance leaders, and the reason for that is that finance need most of the IT things. And then I also keep on saying to my IT head is that you need to bring up those technology which is still not there in the market. Then only we will be able to beat the market or the competitors. So I mean, of course, it's the IT counterpart within the organization who is supposed to support on this technology search. But as a finance leader, I believe that it is the process leads within the finance who actually need to look into it. Say, for example, the accounts payable lead. Now they are working on the accounts payable thing day in, day out, and they knows the pros and cons of the things. They knows the risky part of the process thing. So they can identify the need of the technology. So we don't need technology for each and everything. So you need to be very specific where the technology requirement is there. So to identify that, I think the process lead is the any finance process lead is the best person to, I think, place the requirement of the tool or technology, and then the IT counterpart is I mean, should have the responsibility of recommending or finding the technology from the market.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. By the way, I think if you want to understand technology trends in finance, then I just want to let everyone know here that we at Cashflow as well, we have a magazine on our website where we post about trends in finance. We also have WhatsApp groups. We have regular discussion around trends in finance on those WhatsApp groups as well. And if you would like to be part of those WhatsApp groups, those are dedicated like finance, IT WhatsApp groups that we have for professionals across India. So if you would want to be part of that WhatsApp group, you can just reach out to us at marketing@cashflow.io. Or you can just leave a message here in the chat, and we can add you. You can just leave your phone number in the chat, and we can add you to the groups as well. Last question. This is for Ankur. Is the compliance tool from Cashflow intelligent enough to pick up early warning signals and provide relevant remediation suggestions? Ankur, do you want to take it? I don't know. I think Bipasha, I think we can also set up a demo for you and show you exactly what the tool can do. But maybe Ankur can answer the question, and then we can take this up offline.
Yeah. I think the question is a bit generic when it comes to compliance tools. So I'm not sure which use case, Pasha, you're referring to. But and more broadly, to answer your question, when it comes to compliance, there is a lot of work that we do around GST compliance, especially vendor compliance. And then there is, we have e-invoicing and e-way bill related compliance as well. In our experience, customers typically look for proactive information and intelligence around vendor compliance. that's where early warning signals, become particularly critical. In fact, even on the customer side, we've deployed tools that help an organization understand both their vendors, financial health as well as their customers' financial health, by way of checking, whether they've been compliant on the GST front, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Have they been filing regularly or not? Even, their financial health, credit health. I think there are tools that we offer clients that help them get an aggregated view of, or almost like a, health scorecard of their supply chain, vendor side as well as customer side, where they know that, okay, out of, let's say, 1,000 customers, 1,000 vendors, which 20 of them might, be in some kind of, financial stress, and that allows them to take preemptive measures. So, happy to discuss more in greater detail offline. But yes, to answer your questions, we have early warning signals which relate to compliance data as well as overall financial and credit health.
Fantastic. Awesome. I think that wraps up the webinar for today. We have lots of people who want to be part of the WhatsApp community. So we'll add all of you to the WhatsApp community. Just leave your name and phone number here, and we'll add you to the WhatsApp group there. I think we're just about on time as well. So I'll just take this opportunity to thank both Ankur and Kaustav. Ankur for hosting the session today. I think the conversation was extremely rich and engaging for the audience also. So thanks a lot for that. Kaustav, thank you so much for taking out time and joining us in the webinar today. It's been great to host you, and we hope to do more sessions with you in the future as well. I'd also just like to take this opportunity to wish Kaustav a very good luck for wherever he's joining next. I think we'll get to know in the next couple of days. So good luck on this new journey.
Yes, thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
We'll share a recorded version of this webinar with everyone anyways. So if you want to refer to that, you can always do that. And we'll be hosting more Elevate live sessions soon. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.